Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into something that's, well, it feels like it's everywhere, doesn't it? It's influencing everything from our morning news scroll to global politics.
Absolutely. We're talking about cross-cultural conspiracy theories.
Exactly. And these narratives, they aren't just sort of fringe curiosities anymore. They also raise some really significant concerns in modern society.
You see how easily they spread, especially online.
And the impact, it can be profound. We see it affecting individual health decisions, even major political events.
It's quite pervasive.
So our mission today is to really move beyond those, superficial discussions and truly analyze this complex global phenomenon.
Get under the hood, so to speak.
Yeah. You want to unpack their fundamental origins, understand exactly why they hold such significance, and frankly, why they spread so incredibly widely.
And examine their impact, not just on individuals, but on entire societies.
Right. Trace their evolution over time, how have they changed?
Yeah.
And finally, explore their practical relevance for all of us. Because we're all navigating this vast, often really overwhelming landscape of modern information.
It's crucial. This isn't just about understanding what people believe anymore.
No, it's about why they believe it. And critically, what does that mean for our shared reality?
It's a vital subject because these narrative structures, they are so deeply ingrained in human cognition.
So it's not entirely new then?
No, definitely not new. While the digital age has certainly amplified their reach and complexity, the underlying mechanisms, they're far from new. They have deep roots.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so to really unpack this, let's start right at the beginning. Let's dissect the core anatomy of a conspiracy theory.
Good place to start.
What exactly differentiates, say, a genuine concern about a hidden agenda from maybe a random rumor or just a simple misunderstanding? What are the defining characteristics that actually qualify a belief system as a conspiracy theory?
That's a really vital distinction to make. When we talk about a true conspiracy theory, researchers generally look for 5 critical components.
Okay. 5 components. What's the first one?
First, there's the belief in a hypothesized pattern. It's not just seeing a random event. It's a conviction that various, often seemingly unrelated people, objects, or events are interconnected.
Interconnected in a specific, often hidden way.
Exactly. Clandestine is a good word. Second, it asserts deliberate intentionality. There's a conscious, purposeful agency behind the actions of the alleged conspirators.
So it's not just happening by accident. Someone wants this outcome.
Precisely. It's not a natural disaster, not chance. Someone, or more likely, some group intends for this to happen. Which leads to the third point. A conspiracy theory always involves a coalition.
A coalition, meaning a group.
Yes, a group of actors working together. This is crucial. It distinguishes it from the actions of a single individual, a lone wolf. It's about a coordinated effort.
Okay, so pattern, intent, and a group. What's number 4?
Number 4 is the pervasive presence of a threat. The implication is always that the conspirators' goals are harmful, deceptive, or malevolent.
Not benevolent or just neutral?
Definitely not benevolent. They are seen as working against the common good, against us. And finally, perhaps the most crucial element, secrecy.
Secrecy. How does that play out?
Well, this element of secrecy makes the theory inherently difficult to invalidate. Think about it. The very absence of direct, verifiable evidence isn't seen as disproof.
Ah, I see. It can be reinterpreted by believers
as further proof. It just shows how effective the conspirators are at hiding their tracks, right? The lack of evidence becomes evidence of the conspiracy's power and secrecy.
Wow. So just to clarify then, it's not about, say, supernatural forces or mystical events. It's specifically about human beings coordinating to deceive.
Exactly. Often for a malevolent purpose. That's a key differentiator. Unlike supernatural beliefs, which might involve, divine revelations or actions by non-human entities, conspiracy theories always revolve around a coordinated group of deceptive human beings.
That focus on human agency and secrecy seems fundamental.
It really is. And you see this reflected in the archetypal form that just recurs throughout history.
What's that archetype?
The idea that world events, big or small, are being manipulated by some secret, often transnational cabal.
And this cabal is always seen as hostile.
Almost universally, yes. It's seen as operating against local or national interests, against the ordinary people. And we can trace the structure, this narrative template, back through centuries. There are very clear historical precedents.
That structure is fascinating. But what gives these theories their actual grip, their staying power? I keep wondering about the sheer power of story itself.
Ah, narrative, yes.
How much does our fundamental human need for narrative play into this? It really seems like humans naturally use these story frameworks to make sense of the world.
Absolutely, especially when we're dealing with perceived threats that aren't immediately visible, things we can't easily see or touch.
Right.
You've really hit on a key point there. This deeply rooted human tendency to use narrative frameworks, it's central to understanding how we process information, particularly perceived threats.
And these frameworks aren't fixed.
No, not at all. They're constantly being adjusted, refined based on new information or experiences. What's remarkable is how they create stability for interlocking stories, not just across vast stretches of time, but potentially across different languages and cultures, too.
So the story structure itself can cross borders.
It seems so. We even see this in how our minds semantically encode information from non-visual stimuli. We're building narratives even without direct visual cues. Simple threat narratives may be initially just isolated incidents or fears.
Like a rumor about poisoned wells, perhaps?
Exactly. Those can be linked together, aggregated over time, to form these complex, overarching representations of threatening outsiders or specific groups. Think about those 19th century Danish witch stories that researchers have analyzed.
Okay, what do they find?
Well, individually, a story might just describe a witch harming farm animals or maybe stealing produce. Simple stuff. But when you aggregate hundreds of these stories, you start to see this consistent underlying framework for how the narratives function.
A kind of template for witch behavior.
Precisely. And crucially, when a new story emerges, if it fits this established framework, this template, it resonates much more quickly. It's accepted more readily because it aligns with a pre-existing cognitive structure. The groundwork is already laid.
That makes perfect sense. Our brains are almost optimized for this kind of quick, perhaps even suspicious interpretation.
You could say that.
And this leads us directly to thinking about the evolutionary echoes of suspicion.
Yeah.
There's this hypothesis, the adaptive conspiracism hypothesis.
Yes, a very interesting idea.
It suggests our very tendency to believe in conspiracy theories might actually be an adaptive evolutionary trait. What does that really mean for how our minds might be wired?
It's a truly fascinating perspective. You have to imagine our ancestral environments go way back.
Okay. What was it like?
Well, in that challenging world, violence committed by actual conspirators, researchers call it coalitional violence, was likely a common and very significant cause of death and reproductive loss.
So real conspiracies were a real danger, like being ambushed by a rival group.
Exactly. Being part of a group that was secretly ambushed or maybe poisoned by rivals that would have had severe, often fatal consequences. So from an evolutionary standpoint, think about it. A predisposition to be suspicious.
Might have been unhelpful.
Highly adaptive, potentially. The tendency to detect or even over-recognize secret conspiracies before they could strike could have saved your life or your group's life. It would motivate crucial defensive actions, maybe migrating away from a perceived threat, or even launching offensive preemptive strikes to neutralize a suspected danger before it materialized.
So psychologically, these theories don't just appear out of thin air.
No, they emerge from a complex combination of deeply rooted cognitive systems, our innate ability for pattern perception, seeing connections.
Right, finding the pattern.
Our tendency for agency detection, seeing intentional actors behind events.
Assuming someone meant for it to happen.
Our skill at alliance detection, understanding who is working with whom.
Spotting the coalition.
And our fundamental threat management systems. It's a complex interplay of all these traits working together, sometimes maybe too well.
So this sounds like a very efficient system, almost automatic. Is it based on our fast, intuitive thinking rather than slow, deliberate analysis?
Precisely. This conspiracy detection mechanism really seems to tap into our fast, intuitive, emotional System 1 thinking.
Not the slower, more analytical System 2.
Generally not. System 1 is about those rapid, gut-level responses, absolutely crucial for quick decision-making in potentially dangerous environments. This efficiency is key for survival when you're facing both real and perceived threats constantly.
And is there evidence this is universal?
Yeah.
That it's not just a modern Western thing?
Oh, the evidence for its universality is quite strong, actually. Historical sources, extensive cross-cultural research, they indicate widespread conspiracy theorizing across time and cultures.
For example?
Well, ethnographic evidence shows a high prevalence of conspiracy theories among citizens in incredibly diverse modern countries. Anthropologists have observed them among current hunter-gatherer societies, too.
Really? How do they manifest there?
often as allegations of sorcery between tribes, which function very much like conspiracy theories' secret, malevolent actions by an enemy group.
And older beliefs,
Yeah.
like witchcraft.
Exactly. Even ancient witchcraft beliefs, common in traditional societies, frequently combine superstition with very clear elements of conspiracy theories. They often assume secret, harmful actions by enemy groups or individuals targeting the community. It truly underscores how fundamental this cognitive tendency seems to be.
So the roots of this thinking are clearly ancient, deeply human. But the way these theories operate today feels, well, profoundly modern.
It's like an ancient wiring system plugged into a supercharged digital network.
That's a great way to put it. So let's unpack that evolving landscape now, particularly how disinformation and digital amplification are shaping their propagation, and what psychological, maybe cultural factors drive people to believe.
Right. While the presence of conspiracy theories certainly has historical precedent, and we absolutely know politicians have often exploited them for public manipulation throughout history,
Sure, that's not new.
what we seem to be witnessing now feels fundamentally different, primarily in its scale and speed.
There's definitely this widespread perception of a modern crisis. You hear people say it all the time. A significant portion of the public believes conspiracy theories are, quote, out of control.
And more prevalent than in the past.
And much of this gets attributed almost automatically to social media and the internet. Do you think that attribution is fair? Is it accurate?
I think that attribution is largely founded, yes. While the seeds were always there, we saw a noticeable consolidation of what you might call a conspiracy culture really start to take hold after World War II.
After WWII. Why then?
Well, that period saw an increased political exploitation of conspiracies. Leaders, movements, they began to overtly use these narratives to rally support or, more often, to demonize opponents.
And this wasn't just politics.
No, and this is key. It led to a corresponding, almost symbiotic rise in conspiracy-themed movies and television productions. It permeated popular culture.
Creating a kind of feedback loop.
Exactly. A powerful feedback loop that normalized the idea of hidden, nefarious plots orchestrating world events. It made the idea more familiar, more plausible in the public imagination.
And then, of course, came the digital age,
which acted as a massive accelerant, a game changer.
which birthed what's been termed the conspiracy platform society.
Yeah.
How has technology specifically shaped the propagation of these ideas? How did it transform them from maybe niche beliefs into, at times, globally resonant narratives?
Well, the digitalization of conspiracy theories means they're no longer just fringe curiosities discussed in hushed tones. They are now a critical, often pervasive component of modern political communication and public discourse.
And the speed.
The speed and scale are truly unprecedented. We have studies showing that disinformation, which often fuels or embodies conspiracy theories, spreads approximately 6 times faster than accurate information online. 6 times.
6 times faster. That's staggering. What drives that speed?
A lot of it is driven by how these narratives leverage emotional appeals: fear, anger, urgency.
The things that make you click and share immediately.
Precisely. And crucially, it's amplified by the very algorithms embedded in social media platforms. They're often designed to maximize engagement, and emotionally charged content, like conspiracy theories, drives engagement.
Can you give an example of those emotional triggers?
Sure. One detailed study analyzed tens of thousands of social media posts related to conspiracies. It found that fear appeals were present in over 2/3 of them. Urgency appeals, you need to know this now, in more than half. And solution appeals, often pointing towards the conspiratorial explanation, in over 80%.
So they're not just spreading ideas, they're packaging them with these potent emotional triggers.
Exactly. These aren't just abstract statistics. These are the direct emotional buttons being pushed, designed to lead to action sharing, engaging, believing.
So if you're exposed to content that leverages fear and urgency, you're not just more likely to engage, but the platforms themselves make that engagement incredibly easy and rapid.
It's a perfect storm for viral spread. That's precisely right.
And does the structure of these platforms exacerbate the problem? I'm thinking of things like filter bubbles and echo chambers.
Oh, significantly. These phenomena contribute to a state of, well, intellectual seclusion. Individuals get primarily exposed to information that reinforces their existing beliefs. They hear their own thoughts, their own fears echoed back to them, amplified.
So it confirms their biases.
Deeply. And crucially, if contradictory content does manage to break through that bubble.
It doesn't necessarily challenge the belief.
Often not. It's frequently reinterpreted as further proof of the conspiracy. Look, they're trying to hide the truth, or this is just what they want you to think.
So the challenge itself reinforces the belief. That makes it incredibly resilient.
It creates the self-reinforcing cycle that's very hard to break out of.
Beyond just the passive algorithmic amplification, though, are there active, perhaps malicious actors deliberately involved, people or groups actively trying to spread these narratives?
Absolutely, yes. We see a significant role played by human trolls, sometimes organized, and also automated accounts, bots.
And what's their goal?
These are not passive participants. They are actively and deliberately designed to disrupt conversations, to amplify certain messages, suppress others, and generally sow discord and confusion. They facilitate the widespread dissemination of conspiracy theories very effectively.
And looking ahead, what are the emerging threats in this space?
Well, the observed emergence of AI-generated conspiracy content is a major one. This includes highly sophisticated deepfakes, hyper-realistic but entirely fake images, audio, or video.
Making it even harder to tell what's real.
Exactly. The sophistication of this AI-generated content could potentially surpass human-created narratives quite soon, making it incredibly difficult for the average person to differentiate between authentic content and entirely fabricated information designed to mislead. It's becoming a real arms race in the digital sphere.
That's a truly chilling thought. The potential for reality itself to be digitally manipulated on a mass scale. Okay, so given this digital crucible and these powerful narratives, who is most susceptible? Who tends to believe these theories and why? Let's delve into the psychology of susceptibility.
Right. When we examine the landscape of belief, certain vulnerability factors consistently emerge as predictors of susceptibility.
What's the first major factor?
First, crises and uncertainty. Whether they're personal crises, national ones, or international upheavals, these are prime conditions for conspiracy theories to flourish.
Why is that?
Because in times of upheaval, when things feel chaotic and out of control, these theories exploit existing fears, anxieties, and that deep-seated human need to find blame. They offer a kind of powerful, illusory sense of tranquility and instant comfort.
How? By providing simple explanations.
Exactly. They provide simplistic, often singular explanations for complex, overwhelming, or chaotic events. They offer a clear villain in an otherwise confusing world. It reduces that cognitive load during stressful times.
So it's like finding a neat, simple answer, a clear narrative, even if it's a dark one, in a bewildering world.
Precisely. It provides structure. Another pervasive sentiment among conspiracists is a deep mistrust in institutions.
Which institutions are we talking about?
Particularly public institutions, government, science, mainstream media. These are often viewed not as neutral or helpful, but as tools of powerful plotters, complicit in the deception.
And that mistrust creates an opening.
It creates a void, yes. A vacuum of credible information that conspiracy theories eagerly rush in to fill. If you don't trust the official sources, you'll look elsewhere.
Are there specific psychological traits that make someone more receptive?
There do seem to be certain socio-psychological predispositions, individuals experiencing feelings of hopelessness, perhaps insecurity, anxiety, or exhibiting traits sometimes associated with certain personality patterns like paranoid, antisocial, or borderline personality disorders may be significantly more receptive.
So the theory meets a psychological need.
For these individuals, yes, conspiracy theories can be deeply functional. They might meet fundamental needs for safety, for predictability, or just for a sense of understanding in a world that feels random, threatening, or meaningless.
So it's not just about what you believe intellectually, but what deep-seated emotional or psychological need that belief is fulfilling. It offers a kind of twisted comfort, maybe.
That's a good way to put it, a twisted comfort. We also encounter something researchers call crippled epistemologies.
Crippled epistemologies, what does that mean?
It sounds complex, but the idea is fairly simple. It occurs when individuals are exposed to very limited or highly inaccurate information, often because they're stuck in those closed echo chambers we talked about.
So they lack diverse perspectives.
Exactly. This makes them highly susceptible to fixating on those incorrect beliefs because they simply lack other credible inputs or frameworks to challenge them. They don't have the tools or the diverse information needed for critical evaluation.
That makes sense. What about self-efficacy? Believing in your own ability.
This is an interesting paradox. Typically, high self-efficacy, A strong belief in your own capability to succeed is associated with positive outcomes. But
There's a but.
yes, when high self-efficacy is combined with strong conspiracy beliefs, it can paradoxically motivate individuals to take action, sometimes violent action, to redress grievances.
Because they feel empowered to act on their knowledge.
Precisely. They feel empowered not just to believe, but to act on their perceived special knowledge, believing they are fighting for justice or exposing the truth. And finally, there's often a strong positive association between religiosity and belief in conspiracy theories.
Really? Why would those be linked?
Well, both systems, religion and conspiracy theories, often offer frameworks for explaining uncertainty and unseen threats. They provide explanations for things not directly observed or easily understood by conventional means, often involving powerful hidden forces.
That's a really comprehensive look at individual susceptibility factors.
Yeah.
But what about broader currents? Cultural values, political leanings. Do certain societal values or political outlooks make people more prone to this kind of thinking?
They absolutely seem to. Cross-cultural research consistently suggests that certain cultural values, like collectivism, where group cohesion and interdependence are really prioritized,
Okay.
and masculinity, often associated with values like assertiveness and competition, these are tied to a higher belief in conspiracy theories across different countries.
So it's not just individual psychology, but the cultural soup we swim in.
Exactly. It highlights how these broader societal frameworks, not just isolated individual traits, play a significant role in shaping susceptibility.
What about politics? Does ideology matter?
When we look at political ideology, we often observe a fascinating pattern. It tends to be U-shaped.
U-shaped, meaning the extremes.
Yes. Both extreme right-wing and extreme left-wing positions tend to show stronger associations with conspiracy belief than more moderate stances.
Why would that be? Is it the specific content of the ideologies?
Not necessarily the specific content itself. It seems largely driven by the inherent tendency of more extreme positions to strongly reject and often demonize opposing groups. They're more likely to see opponents as fundamentally illegitimate or part of a grand conspiracy against their own worldview.
So it's less about the specific political platform, maybe, and more about the intensity of the group's opposition to an other, regardless of which end of the spectrum they're on. That's a crucial nuance.
That appears to be a major factor, yes. The intensity of the us versus them thinking.
Are there other social divisions that correlate?
Yes, quite starkly. Research has shown a significant correlation between high racial resentment specifically, studies focused on white individuals' resentment towards black individuals, and increased conspiratorial thinking.
So existing prejudices provide fertile ground.
Exactly. It starkly highlights how existing social tensions, prejudices, and historical grievances can make certain populations more receptive to these narratives, allowing them to take root and flourish.
What about how people get their news? Does that play a role?
It seems to. A news finds me perception, where individuals passively rely on social media algorithms to deliver their news rather than actively seeking out diverse sources.
Scrolling through feeds.
Right. That passive consumption, along with higher overall social media use, is consistently associated with increased conspiratorial thinking. Conversely, higher trust in government institutions generally correlates with lower conspiratorial thinking.
But wasn't there a paradox you mentioned earlier about trust?
Ah, yes, that's important. While a general mistrust of institutions is common among conspiracists, some studies reveal a fascinating paradox. Individuals who actually maintain a degree of trust in governmental institutions.
You still believe conspiracies?
They might embrace conspiratorial narratives, yes, but because they still believe the institutions can be influenced or reformed, they may actually be more motivated to engage in demonstrative actions.
Like protests.
Exactly. Protests, civil disobedience. They believe the institutions are currently compromised by the conspiracy, but not irredeemable. This drives them to demand accountability, to try and fix the system based on their conspiratorial understanding.
So belief doesn't always mean withdrawal. It can mean passionate, confrontational re-engagement, but with a very different agenda. That's a critical insight.
Yeah.
It moves us from just passive belief to potentially active participation.
It does, and that leads us directly into the tangible impacts.
Right. We've seen these theories move from online chatter, from niche communities, into real-world consequences, sometimes incredibly violent ones. What's the direct link between conspiracy belief and extremism or violence?
Well, the link is undeniable and often, frankly, catastrophic. Conspiracy theories frequently serve as a powerful radicalizing multiplier.
A multiplier? How so?
They don't just exist in a vacuum. They feed into existing extremist ideologies, they reinforce internal group dynamics, the use versus them mentality, and they intensely amplify psychological processes that prepare individuals for action.
By creating a sense of urgency.
An overwhelming sense of immediate, often existential danger. This adds extreme urgency to the perceived need for action. And crucially, they often provide a kind of moral justification for violence against perceived opponents.
How do they justify violence?
By framing the enemy, the supposed conspirators or their agents, as so dangerous, so malevolent, that there are no alternatives left but to stop them, by any means necessary, violence becomes framed as self-defense or even a righteous act.
And we've tragically seen numerous real-world manifestations of this radicalization. The consequences can be devastating.
Indeed. The evidence is stark, and it's growing. We've documented physical attacks on 5G installations in various parts of the world, fueled by completely baseless theories linking them to disease or government surveillance.
And attacks on people?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's been a disturbing increase in intimidation and threats of violence against healthcare personnel, for example, in countries like the UK and Germany, often stemming from COVID-19 related conspiracy theories. And we saw violence against teachers trying to enforce mask mandates in the US.
It also seems linked to acts of terrorism.
Tragically, yes. The perpetrators of several recent horrific terror attacks, Hanau, Halle in Germany, Christchurch in New Zealand, El Paso, Pittsburgh, Poway in the U.S., they explicitly reference specific conspiracy narratives in their manifestos or online statements.
Narratives.
Things like the Great Replacement Theory or the idea of a white genocide. These conspiracy theories formed a core part of their justification for mass violence, demonstrating a direct ideological link.
And political violence, like the U.S. Capitol attack.
The attack on January 6, 2021 provided a really visceral demonstration of this. You saw a clear synergy, different groups working together established far-right extremist groups alongside QAnon adherents engaged side by side in anti-government violence. It showed how different conspiratorial currents can converge into collective action.
Are there other specific ideologies where conspiracies fuel violence?
Within the incel ideology that stands for involuntary celibates, concepts like the black pill philosophy and hypergamy function as conspiratorial ideas.
Oh, so.
The black pill philosophy posits that an individual's romantic or sexual fate is biologically predetermined and hopeless, often blaming societal structures or women themselves. Hypergamy is the distorted idea that women exclusively seek partners of higher status. These concepts are then used to justify intense misogyny, hatred, and sometimes horrific violence targeting women. Perceived personal grievances are twisted into rationalizations for harm through a conspiratorial lens.
It's chilling how these beliefs can twist perception and justify violence. Beyond direct violence, though, what about the broader societal fracture? How do these theories impact economies, democracies? Do they undermine the very fabric of society?
The impact definitely extends far beyond individual acts of violence. Conspiracy theories often function as powerful morality tales.
Morality tales, meaning they simplify things.
Yes, they simplify the world into stark black and white worldviews. They create these incredibly clear divisions between the good in-group and the evil out-group.
And the consequence of that division?
It fosters profound societal divisions. It exacerbates intolerance against the other, whoever that other is defined to be. And crucially, it delegitimizes any dissenting voices. Anyone who disagrees or questions the narrative is immediately labeled as ignorant, brainwashed, or worse, part of the conspiracy itself. This shuts down dialogue.
Does it have economic impacts too?
Yes, the economic impact is measurable and very real. It's not just abstract beliefs. Economic conspiracy theories may be related to gold investment during periods of financial uncertainty or plots by global financiers.
People act on these beliefs financially.
They do. For instance, a study in Indonesia found that over 22% of surveyed investors reported being influenced by such narratives in their financial decisions. They actually changed their investment behavior based on these theories. The study even showed a clear timeline. Spikes in conspiracy posts about the economy corresponded with subsequent spikes in gold price increases.
Wow. So that's a direct line from a belief circulating online to measurable financial action in the real world. It truly shows how pervasive their influence can be.
It absolutely does. These aren't just idle thoughts. They're influencing capital flows and market behavior.
What about the health of democracy?
Furthermore, conspiracy beliefs are demonstrably associated with indicators of democratic backsliding.
Such as?
Lowered satisfaction with democracy as a system of government, reduce trust in foundational democratic institutions, courts, elections, parliament, and stronger populist sentiments, often anti-elite and anti-establishment.
How does that translate into political behavior?
This erosion of trust can lead to a reduced willingness to participate in conventional political processes, like voting or engaging with mainstream parties. But it can also lead to an increased likelihood of voting for radical far-right or far-left parties that explicitly promise to expose and dismantle the perceived conspiracies controlling the system.
And are outside actors involved in this,
Yeah.
exploiting these dynamics?
We absolutely must recognize the role of hostile, non-governmental foreign actors, state-sponsored groups, or others with geopolitical agendas.
What do?
They actively exploit crises like pandemics, elections, social unrest, and societal vulnerabilities to deliberately spread disinformation and tailor conspiracy narratives for specific audiences.
What's their goal in doing that?
Their aim is often quite clear: to foster internal division within a target country, sow distrust in its institutions, and politically discredit Western democracies and their allies. It's a form of modern information warfare, effectively aiming to destabilize rival nations from within.
This really sounds like a global phenomenon, then, with different players potentially using similar tactics. Do these conspiracy narratives have a recognizable cross-cultural footprint? Are there certain themes or tropes that just keep popping up across borders, maybe adapting to local contexts, but retaining a core message?
That's one of the most fascinating aspects, actually, how universal certain core themes are, even if their specific manifestations differ markedly across cultures and historical periods.
Like what? What's a major recurring theme?
Anti-Semitism, unfortunately, is a particularly prominent and tragically recurring theme across countless conspiracy theories, old and new.
In what forms does it appear today?
We see modern claims, for instance, that Jewish communities created COVID-19 vaccines for nefarious purposes, maybe to sterilize other groups, or framed horrifically as a final solution to the white European problem.
So blaming a specific group for a global crisis.
Exactly. Other narratives involve a supposed Jew world order or linked Jewish people to the Great Reset plot, alleging aims for global financial and political control.
Are these new ideas?
Not at all. These are direct descendants, modern mutations of historical anti-Semitic tropes. Most notably, they echo the infamous forgery, the protocols of the learned elders of Zion.
The fabricated text alleging a Jewish plan for world domination.
Precisely. That text has fueled anti-Jewish racism and violence for over a century, and its core ideas keep getting repackaged in new conspiracy theories.
And do we see these historical tropes being used now in current events?
Yes, absolutely. They continue to be weaponized. Anti-Semitic tropes have been explicitly used, for example, to justify geopolitical actions. We've seen pro-Russian actors blaming Jews for the war in Ukraine, or falsely claiming Ukrainian leaders are Nazis recycling old anti-Semitic lies to rationalize aggression.
Beyond anti-Semitism, are there specific theories that have spread globally?
Yes, the global reach of specific theories is quite evident. Look at QAnon.
Which started in the U.S., right?
Yes, it originated in the U.S., deeply rooted in American political and cultural grievances, but it didn't stay there. It has asserted a significant presence across Europe and other parts of the world.
Influencing local groups.
Exactly. It's influenced diverse groups like Germany's Reichsbürger movement. They're sort of like sovereign citizens, and the Lateral Thinkers, which is a broad anti-establishment protest movement that emerged during the pandemic. It shows how a localized theory can morph, adapt, and resonate globally, tapping into local anxieties.
What about those persistent themes, the ones that seem to constantly change shape but never quite disappear?
We see that very clearly with long-running conspiracies like chemtrails. That theory dates back to the 1990s.
The idea that airplane contrails are actually chemicals being sprayed.
Yes, the core theory is that the white trails left by aircraft aren't just water vapor, but chemical or biological agents deliberately sprayed for nefarious purposes, population control, weather modification, you name it.
And that theory adapts.
It constantly morphs. It keeps linking itself to contemporary concerns. So chemtrails get connected to COVID-19, to vaccine distribution fears, to climate change denialism, or folded into a broader New World Order plot. This adaptability makes these theories incredibly resilient. They just absorb new anxieties.
Are there other examples of these adaptable themes?
Oh, plenty. We see incredibly diverse manifestations of those core themes. Hidden control, nefarious intent. Think about historical allegations against groups like the Jesuits or the Freemasons.
They were accused of secret plots, too.
Absolutely. At different times, both were accused of being secret rulers of the world or manipulative, even satanic forces working behind the scenes. Then jump to modern theories like anxieties around 15-minute cities.
Which are urban planning concepts, right?
Yes, designed for walkability and local amenities. But in the conspiracy world, they're claimed to be a global elite plot for mass surveillance and climate lockdowns restricting movement. Or take the Golden Billion theory.
What's that one?
It's a threat narrative, heavily pushed by Russian state actors recently, which posits that a tiny global elite, the Golden Billion, seeks to drastically reduce the world's population, eliminating billions of people so they can hoard the planet's resources.
So despite the different specifics, Jesuits, chemtrails, 15-minute cities, Golden Billion, the underlying structure is similar.
Exactly. All these narratives, despite their wildly different details and targets, share those fundamental underlying themes of hidden control, powerful secret groups, and malevolent intent. They resonate across vastly different cultural and political contexts because they tap into those deep-seated fears and suspicions.
This is incredibly complex. So what does this all mean for us as we try to navigate this information landscape, which feels increasingly treacherous? How do we even begin to counter these deeply entrenched beliefs and protect ourselves, protect our societies from their impacts, which, as you said, can be devastating?
That brings us to perhaps the most crucial and often the most frustrating question: what can actually be done? Let's look at countermeasures and future directions.
Okay, starting with the difficulty. How intractable is the belief once someone really buys into a conspiracy theory?
Well, as we touched on, conspiracy theories are, frankly, incredibly resilient. Their narrative structures are key here. They allow them to constantly adapt, reconstruct themselves, even when specific elements are rigorously debunked or proven false.
So pointing out factual errors doesn't always work.
Often it doesn't make a dent. They're like a narrative version of that, liquid metal Terminator. You try to remove an edge, point out a piece of faulty logic, but the narrative just reforms itself. Often it even incorporates the debunking attempt itself as further evidence for the conspiracy.
That's a perfect analogy. It captures how frustrating it must be to try and correct misinformation, especially when you're dealing with someone who's deeply committed. It seems like directly debunking can sometimes even backfire.
That's precisely the debunking paradox we often face. While the inherent incoherence, the logical flaws, the lack of evidence in many conspiracy theories do offer opportunities for debunking.
It can strengthen the belief.
With deeply committed believers, yes, direct, aggressive rebuttal can often backfire badly. For them, your attempt to debunk isn't seen as a helpful correction based on facts. It's interpreted as proof that you are either ignorant, maybe brainwashed, or worse, actively part of the conspiracy you're trying to expose. You become part of the problem they see.
So you become part of them.
Exactly. This is a major reason why, currently, the field still lacks a really stable, universally effective theoretical framework for reliably diminishing the diffusion and affirmation of conspiracy theories across the board. How do you effectively intervene? It's a significant and pretty urgent research gap that needs much more attention.
Okay, so given these profound challenges, what strategies can we effectively employ? For resilience, for prevention, both maybe individually and societally.
One of the most fundamental strategies, and maybe the most hopeful in the long run, is empowering education.
Education in what sense? Just teaching facts.
It's crucial, but it's broader than just facts. Education is key to immunizing individuals against the allure of conspiracy theories. This includes, yes, factual knowledge, but more importantly, enhancing critical thinking skills.
Like analyzing arguments, spotting logical fallacy.
Exactly. Fostering genuine open-mindedness, the willingness to consider other perspectives, and critically, teaching comprehensive media literacy.
So people can navigate the information landscape more safely.
Yes, helping individuals identify reliable news sources amidst all the noise, understand how algorithms work, recognize manipulative techniques, rather than just falling prey to unverified narratives that confirm their biases.
So education's foundational. What about interventions for people who already believe?
Here, we absolutely need tailored interventions. The strategies have to be differentiated based on the individual's level of commitment to the conspiracy theory. It's not one size fits all.
How so?
Well, for weakly committed individuals, maybe people who are just dabbling, curious, haven't fully bought in yet, fact-based and logic-based interventions might actually be effective. Pointing out inconsistencies could work.
But for the deeply committed believers?
For them, a different approach is almost always essential. Empathy is key. Trying to understand and address their underlying grievances, feelings of powerlessness, mistrust, economic anxiety, whatever it might be, is vital. And importantly,
Don't ridicule them.
absolutely, ridicule of their beliefs should be scrupulously avoided. It almost never works. It only serves to entrench them further in their beliefs and alienate the individual, making communication impossible. You have to build rapport first.
So it's definitely not a simple fix. And that judgmental approach is often counterproductive. We also need to look beyond the individual, right? Address the broader societal conditions that make people vulnerable in the first place.
Exactly. That's critical. It's vital to address root causes at a societal level. This means actively working to reduce widespread societal feelings of uncertainty, of mistrust in institutions, powerlessness, a lack of control.
How can society do that?
By improving socioeconomic conditions, reducing inequality, fostering a stronger sense of community and security, increasing transparency in government and institutions. These things can significantly diminish the fertile ground upon which conspiracy narratives thrive. People who feel secure, heard, and that the system is generally fair are less likely to seek simplistic, conspiratorial explanations for their struggles or the world's problems.
What about the platforms themselves, where the theories spread?
Yes. Platform accountability is absolutely critical. The digital platforms, social media companies, search engines must take far greater responsibility for the content they amplify and profit from.
What should they be doing?
Well, it means actively modifying their recommendation algorithms, for instance, promoting information diet diversity to deliberately prevent individuals from spiraling down those ever narrower echo chamber rabbit holes.
So deliberately showing different viewpoints.
Potentially, yes. Or at least not optimizing solely for engagement, which often favors extreme content. They could also implement circuit breakers.
Circuit breakers, like in electronics?
Sort of. Mechanisms to automatically slow the viral spread of demonstrably harmful or false information once it reaches a certain velocity, giving fact-checkers time to catch up. They should also develop clear, consistent labeling systems for economic or other conspiracy content, alerting users to its questionable nature without necessarily censoring it outright.
And what about public figures? Politicians, celebrities.
Their role is huge. It is absolutely vital for influential public figures to understand and take responsibility for the profound harm caused by spreading and legitimizing conspiracy theories. Their words carry immense weight.
They can normalize fringe ideas.
Exactly. They can transform fringe ideas into mainstream dangers almost overnight. Responsible leadership means refuting, not amplifying, these harmful narratives.
Looking forward, and what's the shifting frontier here? Especially with technology like AI continuing to evolve so rapidly, is this landscape going to get even more challenging?
I think it almost certainly is. The rapid evolution of technology, particularly the increasing sophistication, and crucially, the accessibility of AI-generated content.
Those deepfakes you mentioned.
Yes, from hyper-realistic images that never happened to deepfake videos and audio that can convincingly mimic anyone's voice or appearance. This will make it increasingly difficult for humans, even experts, to differentiate fake content from real.
So we'll need new tools.
This isn't some distant sci-fi threat. It's happening now. It necessitates entirely new detection and analysis methods, both technological solutions and enhanced human critical thinking skills. And as economic uncertainty persists globally, as digital platforms continue their rapid evolution, the phenomenon of conspiracy theories reshaping financial, political, and social behavior, it's not likely to diminish.
It might intensify.
In fact, it is likely to intensify. These narratives will constantly find new anxieties to exploit, new technologies to leverage, new ways to bypass defenses. This highlights the dynamic, ever-evolving nature of their impact. We need to be constantly vigilant and adaptive.
So with all that complexity, what's the most important takeaway for our listeners as they try to navigate this complex, sometimes scary information world? How can they equip themselves?
I think if we connect this back to the bigger picture, there's profound value in understanding conspiracy theory engagement not as a single event, but as a multi-stage process.
What are the stages?
Think of it as moving from initial recognition or exposure to a narrative, then to the actual development of belief in it, and then potentially to demonstrative or diffusion action, sharing it online, protesting, maybe even worse.
And why is understanding it as a process helpful?
Because this layered, nuanced understanding is absolutely critical if we want to develop more targeted, more culturally adaptive, and ultimately more effective strategies to mitigate their profound societal impact. Knowing how these narratives often progress allows us to potentially intervene at different points in that process rather than just reacting after the belief is fully formed and action is already being taken.
Right. So different approaches might be needed at different stages.
Exactly. Prevention looks different from intervention, which looks different from de-radicalization.
Okay. So to summarize our deep dive today, we've really journeyed through this intricate world of cross-cultural conspiracy theories. We've gone from their fundamental psychological, even evolutionary underpinnings
To their complex and massively amplified manifestations in modern digital communication.
and finally looking at their very real, often devastating impacts on individuals, on economies, and on the health of democracies worldwide.
It's clear that understanding these dynamics isn't just some academic exercise.
No, definitely not. It feels like a practical and vital necessity for every single one of us as we navigate this increasingly interconnected, information-saturated, and sometimes confusing world.
Which really raises an important question for you, the listener, as you reflect on everything we've discussed today. What personal habits or perhaps information sources might be unknowingly shaping your own understanding of the world? And how might a deeper, maybe more intentional engagement with diverse perspectives serve as your most powerful tool in an age of proliferating, often quite deceptive narratives?
Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.